Well, Canon just released a new cinema camera, the C80, and let's talk about it. Well, hi there, my name is Tony, and I am a filmmaker and photographer in the St. Louis area, and I have a huge love for Canon cameras, both stills and video. And so it's really exciting that Canon just released the C80, and I want to talk to you about it. Now, the C80 is the successor for the C70. Some people are saying it's not really a replacement, it's just the next level up. The C70 is basically a C300 Mark III shoved into an basically 1D sized body. A little bit bigger, a little bit better in a lot of different ways. But the C80, same style, just has a couple new features, and one big one, obviously, is the full frame 6K sensor right out of the C400. Now, there's all sorts of things that I loved about the C70, but it seems like Canon took all of those things that I had maybe not loved as much and upgraded them just a little bit. So, just to say it right off the bat, what's really nice is the price is $5,500, which is exactly what the price was when the C70 came out. Now you can get the C70 for $4,500, making that crop sensor version just that much more enticing. So let's talk about some of the specs that I noticed when I was kind of watching videos and learning about the camera. Obviously, the first one is the full frame sensor. You can shoot 6K, lots of variations of codecs and things like that. It does shoot light, which, if we remember, when the C70 came out, it didn't have any versions of raw, not even raw light. So that's kind of interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. It also upgrades to dual pixel autofocus 2. So if you look at the menu systems, you can choose people or cars, things like animals, things like that, which is kind of a nice feature. Canon did a really good job with the C70 as it progressed with firmware updates to improve that autofocus. So I imagine having some dual pixel autofocus 2 right out of the gate is gonna make that camera really nice. What else is on there? Oh yes, obviously the big noticeable thing is the SDI port right on top that you can simultaneously use HDMI. Now, for me, most of the time that I used the C70, it was for documentary style capturing. So I would throw it on a Ronin, I would put it in my bag and take it across the world. It's been to Africa, Haiti, the Bahamas. I'm trying to think where else I took that thing. I don't know, all over the place. Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and so really small package. The advantage with the SDI port is you can have a monitor feed going to your on-camera monitor. So say you got a small HD or whatever, you've got that with your HDMI port, and then you can run a SDI port to, say, a Teradek. If you're running a jib, you can run much longer than an HDMI port. It's more secure, all of those kind of things. So having those both simultaneous output, which was a limitation with the C300 Mark III. We had that because it kind of complemented the C70, and on a big shoot, it was really great, but I couldn't plug in a monitor, an HDMI, and an SDI port, which was a limitation. So now that you can do that with the C70, you've got two outputs. Very nice. I love that a lot. Okay, so what else did they do? They fixed the hinge, which was such a thing that people talked about. They didn't like the hinge, it was all floppy. And so they tightened that up, completely redesigned, whatever that means, and then it locks when it's on the back of the camera, which I think is great. I think that's cool. I personally never had trouble with the screens on the back of the C70s, so having it just a little improved, I think is really good. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is they updated the hot shoe. And I kept thinking, well, new flashes and things like that, but realistically, it's for like the Tascam that you can stick on the R5C. Now you can have 4 channels of audio with 2 full-size XLRs and 2 mini XLRs. Kind of cool. You can have that all right from your little compact camera. Now, once again, the way that I used the C70 was very run and gun, very, just pack it up in your camera bag and go across the world. And so I think that's really what the advantage of this camera is. The difference is you get a full frame sensor now, which is crazy. You get a different battery that probably will get you a little bit longer life and different things like that. You get the updated hot shoe, you get the SDI port, you get the better autofocus. And so a lot of extra bang for your buck for the same price point that the C70 came out with. Okay, so a few things that I wish that they may have upgraded that they didn't. One, I wish that they would have put CF Express Type B in it instead of the SD cards. R5C, the R5, the R5 Mark II, the R1, those all have CF Express. C400, that CF Express Type B, I've gotten so used to the data transfer rates on those cards. And they're cheaper. They're cheaper than UHS-2 cards, which I don't understand how an SD card is more expensive than a CF Express Type B. And so I've kind of transitioned all of my cameras over to that CF Express Type B, and I really like that, and I wish that the C80 would have that. The other thing is, I know a lot of people didn't like the mini XLRs, the smaller little ones. You had to either buy an adapter or all the things, and I never personally had trouble with that because we were switching from XLR to minis, so I just bought a couple adapters and never had trouble with those, and it kept that form really small, which I loved. I really liked that. So those are some of the things that I noticed. The other thing is, now that they've released another new battery, I feel like Canon is going through this like this battery dilemma right now, where they keep coming out with a new E6L or NH or NH Pro or whatever it is, and so every time you get a new camera, you gotta upgrade your batteries. Well, once again, the C80 has a different battery. Now they're compatible with the old ones, but it just limits your possibilities with the camera. And so that's a little bit of an annoying thing. That camera battery that is in the C70, it's all the way back to, I think the C200 was maybe the first camera that had that one. I loved that battery. It's big, it lasts forever. There's just a couple different options. You get the 30 or the 60. And so that BPA battery is just incredible. And so now they're probably having to update that, and battery technology has significantly changed in the past, decade. And so I get it, but another battery. Okay, what else did I have notes on that I want to talk about with you? Maybe we just talk about, if you've got a C70, should you upgrade? I'm curious what you're thinking. If that's your main run and gun camera, you use the C70 every day, are you planning on getting a C80? Well, for the upgrade, you get a couple big things. Do you need full frame? It's kind of nice. A little bit wider field of view. You get better depth of field, all of those kind of things. Do you find yourself constantly wishing that you had the SDI port? I think if those two things alone are struggles that you just absolutely want to have, I think that's a good upgrade. I think another welcomed addition is the dual pixel autofocus 2. I think that anytime you can improve autofocus on a small portable camera, because a lot of times if you're using cinema cameras, you may not even use autofocus. You've got either an AC that's pulling for you, or you've got whatever it is. You're locked and you're loaded, and you're able to manually control your focus, and so this is not that camera. It's not a fully built out rig. This is a camera that's meant to be run and gun documentary, small package, solo camera operator. And so if they can improve that autofocus, I think that's just gonna make this camera that much better. Now, what if you don't have a C70 and you're considering getting a cinema camera? That's similar to me. I've just bought the R5C. Probably gonna upgrade to another camera, and I don't know if it's gonna be either cinema or if it's gonna be another hybrid like the R5 Mark II. But having this option, one of the things that I've always kind of held against the C70 is that it's a crop sensor. Not that it matters to me, because the footage that came out of that C70 was just mind-blowingly beautiful. I loved working with it. I loved coloring it. I loved the flexibility of it. But now if there's a full frame version of it, that's really enticing for me. So, if you don't have a C70 or a C80, what one would I suggest? Well, I think there's a couple main things. It all depends on really your budget, because there's really no reason to go with the C70 unless you don't have the budget for it. Now, if you want to get a cinema camera for $4,500, the C70 is an incredible option. If you want that extra full frame, if you want the better autofocus, if you need the SDI port, I think it's a no-brainer. That's well worth the $1,000 for that C80. So, all right, well, this video's gotten pretty long. I'd love your thoughts on the C80. Is this a camera that you're kind of looking at? For me, who's doing video, right now, where I'm at, I'm kind of building up my creative business and kind of building up the gear and seeing how it all goes. But right now, what I need is, I really just need a hybrid setup. That's why I picked up an R5C recently, and I've been loving that camera. It's doing what I need it to. But as I develop and further build out my kit, I could absolutely see picking up a C80. And given the price points between the two, I'd rather pay the extra 20% or whatever and just get that C80. So, exciting times. We live in a good world. This is great. I mean, you can spend a couple $1,000s and get a really great camera. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share with them. Leave comments on this video. I want to know, what are your thoughts? Was the C80 even necessary? C70 does everything it needs to, or are we playing catch up from other brands? Let me know what you're thinking. If you haven't already, subscribe. We talk a lot about Canon cameras, both photo and video. Do a lot of tips, do a lot of reviews, different things like that. And other than that, like the video. We'll see you next time.